without purpose. He asked Peter to go out a little further in order that he might be able to minister more effectively to the crowd that was on the edge of the sea. And even though Peter was where the crowd was, he was not actually a part of the crowd. He was not actually there to listen to Jesus. He was doing something totally different. He had not come to be a part of the crowd in the beginning. And actually, we get the impression, or we don't get the impression or any indication from the Gospels that Peter was particularly strong in his Jewish faith at all. As a matter of fact, Peter was like some folk that I know. He's like those of us who have grown up in families who weren't necessarily opposed to church. We were not agnostic, and we were not atheists, not believing in God, but we were just some people who didn't go to church on a regular. Do we have any people like that in here today? Didn't just go. You weren't anti-church, and you weren't against the church, and you listened to gospel radio, and you listened to religious programming on television, but church was not a part of your constitution. And as we move from generation to the next generation, we find that our traditions and our religious roots have almost been stomped out as a result of us being on the peripheral and not being involved in the body of Christ. And many of us find ourselves in the fringes of a relationship with God, not in the church, but not necessarily out of the church either. Not anti-God, but too busy to be doing church on a regular basis. And so many times you'll find people like Peter who were in this case, who was busy trying to make a living. It wasn't that he didn't believe God, but his whole mindset and his concern was about making a living. And even if we look at our generation now, we find that most men between the ages of 25 and 35, that their whole concern, and women too, is about making a living. As a matter of fact, they don't mind if the children go to church, and if they're married, they're happy that their wives go to church, but they don't really find times themselves to go to church except on 3 times of the year. That's Mother's Day, Christmas, and Easter. You know, they don't spend a lot of time in worship. And, you know, and just like Peter, we have sometimes people who are called peripheral worshipers. We're on the outside. We know God. We know of God. We sit down and we watch television on a Sunday morning while we're eating our breakfast, but we don't have time to make it out to the house of God. Yet even though Peter came close to the edge, God saw something in Peter that he did not even see in himself. And even though some of us may have come from a non-church environment, God sees something in you and I that we never saw in ourselves that brought us to where we are right now. And so when we look at this, we find that Luke has an amazing challenge. And even starting back to the 24th chapter, the last chapter of the gospel according to St. Luke, around the 49th verse to the 52nd verse, you will hear Luke begin to reiterate what has already been said in those particular scriptures. And Luke wants to give us an experience of wanting more, longing for more, and expecting more from God. As a matter of fact, God has even put you in the place right now and has directed your path so much so that not only do you want to be in church, but you are here on a Friday night when you could have been doing something else in a district revival, when you could have been somewhere else, but God directed you so that you had such a hunger and a desire for Him. You said, I got to make it to the house of God. Hey, tell somebody I came to get more. Tell them I came to get more, and more. Come on, somebody. Clap your hands and give God praise right there. He opens up in the book, the first chapter of Acts, with a letter, and he's talking to Theophilus. On the way down, I had a conversation with Pastor White. He's a great historian, great Bible teacher. Loved to sit under his ministry, and I asked him a question. I said, I forgot to look this part up. Can you help me out, Doc? You know, that's what the brothers call other brothers. Can you help me out just a little bit? And according to him, one of the things that he shared with me coming down is that it has been really hard to find who Theophilus really is. There's no definition or no explanation and nothing about Theophilus. And so they come